Greetings and welcome back to Room 303. We are in the middle of our conversations and discussions regarding Gibran's The Prophet. This is lecture number 19 on teaching. Often when I am asked to speak with teachers, this is the passage that I will go to. It is, of course, loved and revered by so many teachers and has been for so long. You could make the argument that the prophet, the text, is itself really just a text on teaching. That is to say, it's didactic or a propedeutic, as we've used this term before. Instructional, inclining towards instruction. Now, of course, we're talking about pedagogy, the approach to teaching, what makes this whole project of teaching so important and precious. Gibran's going to have a whole lot to say about it. Now, our assumptions that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, you'll find our playlist. I did give a set of introductory comments that I'm hopeful that you're familiar with, and then we've been working through in the previous 18 lectures. We just finished with self-knowledge, and if you'll think about it, there's an interesting trinity again. I've been talking about these, so many of these passages, these poems come in threes. Think about it. We go from teaching in this passage to friendship and then to talking. And you can kind of see how they work so closely together. In many ways, we're back to passage lecture number 3 on love, and then passage number 5 on children. And you'll begin to see as you study the prophet closely and you read these in order that he's building powerful arguments, and now on teaching we're going to see this. Now, the pedagogy that we've talked about really does start with Plato and with Socrates. Go back to learnstrong.net on our comments on Plato's Republic, especially book 7 in the cave allegory, and from there, no question that he has been heavily influenced by Walt Whitman. I'll share, do you just remember this passage from Song of the Open Road 6? Now if 1,000 perfect men were to appear, it would not amaze me. Now if 1,000 beautiful forms of women appeared, it would not astonish me. Now I see the secret of the making of the best persons is to grow in the open air and to eat and sleep with the earth. Here a great personal deed has room. Such a deed seizes upon the hearts of the whole race of men. Its effusion of strength and will overwhelms law and mocks all authority and all argument against it. Here is the test of wisdom. Wisdom is not finally tested in schools. Wisdom can't be passed from one having it to another not having it. Wisdom is of the soul. It's not susceptible of proof, is its own proof. Applies to all stages and objects and qualities, and is content. Is the certainty of the reality and immortality of things and the excellence of things. Therefore, something there is in the float of the sight of things that provokes it out of the soul. Now I re-examine philosophies and religions. They may prove well in lecture halls, yet not prove it all under the spacious clouds and along the landscape and flowing currents. I can't help but believe that a whole lot of that idea from Song of the Open Road 6 is going to be played out here as well. We're back as well in this to the word picture of bird and flight. Wings are understanding, while the height that the bird goes is wisdom. And of course, this is the presentation of what we will call integral teaching. That is to say, we'll have both faith or trust and love combined. Notice it is a teacher that asks about teaching. Then said a teacher, speak to us of teaching, and he said. So Al-Mustafa is going to now produce this view on teaching. And think about it. At the very beginning of the prophet, you'll remember that he's, oh yes, I get to get on my boat and go away. Well, wait, let's go to the front of the temple and let's do a little bit of teaching. And notice the way that he's done it. Very Socratic, the use of questions, the use of word pictures, and the like. He says it. No man can reveal to you aught but that which already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. This half asleep makes us think of Thoreau's passage from Walden. We've given full lectures on Walden at learnstrong.net. We must learn to reawaken and keep ourselves awake, not by mechanical aids, but by an infinite expectation of the dawn that does not forsake us in our sound asleep. What is it he says? I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of a man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. Here we're talking about, if you're half asleep, the job of the teacher is to draw out that dawning of knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple, think about the fact that he uses the word shadow. That's your key for, of course, the cave allegory of Republic 7, Plato's Republic 7. But also notice and remember, they are all sitting in front of a temple. That's the setting whereby he's going to present all this information, Al-Mustafa. The temple, the teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather his faith and his lovingness. I mean, think of it this way. Teachers basically do three things. They distribute knowledge. That, there's no question. But they also develop character, so much of that here. And beyond that, they do what Whitman will call destroy the teacher. In other words, they make the teacher somehow no longer necessary. You as a student, to grow beyond. Maybe if we have time at the end, we'll even read that passage that's so precious. I think it was very precious to Gibran, passage 46-47, the famous destroy the teacher passage of Song of Myself. To continue, if he is indeed wise, the teacher, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. And of course, Song of Myself 46 comes to mind with this leading to a knoll and all of that. The astronomer, and immediately we think, of course, of Whitman's learned astronomer. You'll remember Whitman sitting there, he said he got kind of bored, and then he had to go out into the mystical, moist night air. All of these references, more stuff for you at learnstrong.net with our talks with Walt as we did all of the poems of Leaves of Grass. The astronomer, notice we'll go from astronomer to musician to the mathematician, right? Watch this. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers, math, can tell of the regions of weight and measure, but he can't conduct you thither. 4. The vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. Now think about the power of the Daedalus myth. Of course, Daedalus the father telling Icarus don't fly too close to the sun. And of course, Icarus doesn't want to listen, and so he flies too close to the sun and gets jacked for it. But notice, for the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. Again, the flight theme of birds. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so much each one of you be alone in his knowledge of God and in his understanding of the earth. The goal here, obviously, then, is wisdom. Well, what are we going to do with a short... I mean, it's amazing to me how in a short passage like this, Gibran is able to capture so much of what it actually means to be a teacher. And again, as I say, if I'm ever talking with teachers, I often will make the argument that the only sin is to forget. Gibran points this out continuously. And we as teachers often forget what the actual goal of being a teacher is. And here he reminds us in just a few lines. It's quite remarkable. Well, what is it? At 2a, what are we going to say? Well, the teacher, of course, is the guide towards wisdom. Not the giver of wisdom, but the guide towards wisdom. Again, the distributor of knowledge, the developer of character, and then ultimately the destroyer of the teacher's self. In other words, this isn't about the teacher. Gibran will make this argument through the prophet. This isn't about me. This is about you guys. What can you do to take this information and grow? At 2b, well, I love the word picture of flight. That makes so much sense when we're talking about educators and educating, right? At 3a, well, this quote has been attributed to a number of folks. For me, it was always told that it was the great educator, American educator Horace Mann, who said, those who dare to teach must never cease to learn. And I think that's really the argument that's being made here. Again, we mentioned the Daedalus Icarus. How about this, because we have a few seconds? Let's just enjoy these lines again from Song of Myself 46-47, Walt Whitman. These are, I think, the lines that Gibran is channeling so well. I know I have the best of time and space, and was never measured and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. Come, listen all. My signs are a rainproof coat, good shoes, and a staff cut from the woods. No friend of mine takes his ease in my chair. I have no chair, no church, no philosophy. I lead no man to a dinner table, library exchange, but each man and each woman of you I lead upon a knoll. So there's your word lead from this passage. My left hand hooking you round the waist, my right hand hooking to landscapes and continents in the public road. Not I, not anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself. This is, of course, the passage where the teacher, Whitman, is speaking to the student. You. It's not far, it's within reach. Perhaps you've been on it since you were born and did not know. Perhaps it's everywhere on water and on land. Shoulder your duds, dear son, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we shall fetch as we go. In other words, the teacher and the student travel together. If you tire, give me both burdens and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and in due time you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. Lifelong learning. And then, of course, this little passage. This day before dawn, I ascended a hill and looked at the crowded heaven. And I said to my spirit, when we become the enfolders of those orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? And my spirit said, no. We but level that lift to pass and continue beyond. In other words, always looking. What is it that Tennyson will say in Ulysses, the poem, the great poem? To follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bounds of human thought. That's the goal, of course. And then, of course, the teacher will finish. You're asking me questions. I hear you. I answer that I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Sit a while, dear son. Here are biscuits to eat. Here's milk to drink. But as soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I kiss you with a goodbye kiss and open the gate for your eagers hence. The teacher only has an opportunity to work with the student for a brief period of time and then lets the student go. Long enough, he will say it this way, have you dreamed contemptible dreams. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. Long have you timidly waited holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you, I dare you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea, rise again, nod to me, shout and laughingly dash with your hair. The great teachers will send their students out to the deepest part of the ocean and say, go have a good swim. He finishes by saying, I'm the teacher of athletes. That is to say, swimmers. This is, of course, the opening lines of passage 47, A Song of Myself. He that by me spreads a wider breast than my own, proves the width of my own. He most honors my style who learns under it, to destroy the teacher. In other words, the job of the teacher is to make you, the student, somehow superior. How? Well, again, by distributing knowledge, no question. We're doing that, for example, in our study of the prophet. But what about this other D, the development of character? That's the challenge to find the wisdom, to live a quality life. That's the job also of a teacher. But finally, of course, it's the job of the teacher to destroy the need of the teacher, to challenge the student to live beyond it. Here, of course, you can hear Gibran challenging you guys to say, read it, internalize it, and then somehow live it. That's the real challenge. Of course, at 3B, well, this is, if you're a student, you can ask, who's been the great teacher of your life that challenges you to do that? If you're a teacher, then we have to remember what our true goal is, especially those 3 Ds, as we've learned them here from Gibran. Well, I think this is interesting because from his discussion of teaching, he then moves us to a discussion on friendship, which I find a fascinating movement from the one to the next. I hope that Gibran is challenging you to destroy the teacher. Thank you.